Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 8. And this is going to be my review for episode 15 for this season. We are 3/4 of the way through this season. This episode is otherwise entitled Into the Still Force. But of course, spoiler alert for everything that we go over in this video. Of course, because if you've not watched the episode, you should be going away. But if you have watched the episode, you are continuing on. Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts, opinions, theories, predictions going forward, just what you thought of the episode as a whole. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, want to show support, and you enjoyed the episode, why not drop a like on the video to do all that? But of course, last episode was the Frost funeral episode, or like the proper, I'd say, ending to the Deathstorm arc, because it just wraps up some of the storylines going on within there. But of course, right towards the end, we see that Caitlin has taken a lock of like Frost's hair from the casket when they went to the funeral, and it's in order to potentially bring her back to life. Now, I think most of us assume that's not going to happen because they spent so much time around that Frost goodbye. So obviously, whatever potentially happens from this isn't going to be good. You'd have to think so. It's probably going to be nothing positive, probably negative. And then, of course, right at the end of the episode, the cliffhanger for the episode, which leads directly into the majority of the stuff that happens in this episode, Iris disappears due to her time sickness. She just poofs away, and we knew at that moment that she's gonna be gone for a while. So yeah, that's where they plant the seed for this episode. But heading into this episode, I wasn't too sure exactly what it was going to be like. I was like, okay, how much time are we going to spend in the Still Force? Is it going to be for like 10 minutes and then everything like that? But then at the same time, I was like, well, hold on. We know like Candice Patton, the actress who plays Iris, is gone for like 4 episodes or something like that. So she's not going to randomly appear at the end of the episode. So I was expecting some fun stuff. And I think this episode was pretty good. Even the side stuff with Chester sort of even like tied up a storyline point while also setting something up as well going forward, which I'm not too sure exactly if it's for next episode or if it's for something later on. I'm not too sure. But I think everything in this episode tied together pretty well. There was nothing where I rolled my eyes and went, oh, why are we wasting 5 minutes on this? I think everything was pretty good. But we start off in the episode with, us in Barry and Iris' apartment. And Barry's pretty much getting ready for the workday, and he's just openly talking to Iris as if she's there. But of course, we know that she isn't there, which confuses Barry at first, though he does have a text message from Iris telling him that she was pulling an all-nighter at the Citizen, which wouldn't be a new thing. Like, that would have happened a good amount of times, so nothing, suspect for Barry to be like, oh my god, she didn't come home? Like, she would have done that ages, or she would have done that a lot of times for, since doing her journalism stuff. But when Barry gets to the offices of the Citizen, there's no Iris, but all of her stuff is there. So this obviously puts Barry into panic mode straight away. This leading Barry to searching all around Central City to no avail. Now, we did see on Iris's computer that she was actually working on a Fast Track Labs article or story. And it was about Fast Track Labs being like the new front runner in the tech industry. Now, of course, we went to Fast Track Labs in episode 6 with Nora and Bart, but that was just that was like an entry point into that. And we know that Fast Track Labs factor into the end of this season as well. So just planting another seed. I don't know if we go there next episode or whatever it is, but yeah, we will, tie back to Fast Track Labs by the end of the season. So they're just sort of fleshing it out a tiny bit here and there. Now, the main issue around this Iris stuff, for Barry at least, is that Dion is needed for Barry to really do anything about it. He can't really access the Still Force without Dion, and Dion is missing in action. Of course, we saw him disappear and fade away out like 3 episodes ago or something like that. So Barry hasn't seen him since then. So Barry really can't do anything in regards to the direct Still Force without him. Now, there were sort of 3 storylines in this episode. We had the main Still Force stuff, which was like what, 75% of the episode, but there was also one quick scene towards the end, towards the beginning, and that ties into the end scene, which we'll get to obviously later in the video. But we had Caitlin and Chilblain in the makeshift lab like we saw at the end of last episode, and Chilblain's not really feeling what's going on, though Caitlin is coming off as pretty damn confident in what she's aiming to do. Though moving forward with what she is trying to do will involve getting more DNA material off Frost's body. Now, it is interesting to see the change in Chillblaine as a character. He's pretty much gone from goofball and like pretty much never said anything serious at all last season and even earlier in this season to a serious character. Now I'm interested to see if the perception of the character from viewers changes, because I'm intrigued to see where this storyline goes and how Chillblaine as a character, goes about things, because he was just a meme. He was pretty much meant to be a personification of all the goofy 90s stuff, in last season, but now they're making him into a bit more of a serious and in some ways like a sympathetic character. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out. Obviously in the next couple of episodes, but I guess the rest of the season, depending on how long this storyline goes. But we do have Barry seeking out Tinya Wazzo to possibly like help in getting Iris back. And I was sort of surprised to see her. Like I thought we'd see her mother again, but I didn't think we'd see Tinya. I thought like, when that stuff happened, a handful of episodes back and she made Iris disappear, that would be it. And we wouldn't see Tinya again. But of course, Tinya is, still not happy with how things left off with Iris. So you can understand that Tinya, wouldn't be overly happily to be talking to Barry once she knew that Barry was Iris's husband. But as Tinya does storm out, Dion shows up and he lets Barry know that Iris is in the still force somewhere, just somewhere, but he can't find her. And that due to him being unstable, Barry is going to have to help him by, tracking Iris through the temporal particle thing that Dion put into Iris a couple of episodes ago, which is, funnily enough, I think just before he disappeared. Now, Barry does sit down with Team Flash, and Joe mainly has the major concerns about just rushing into the unknown of the still force, which I agreed with, and we do see it play out sort of in this episode. And just also the fact that there seems to be no word, it's just radio silence from the other forces of Nora, as in the Speed Force, Bashir, Psyche, and of course Allegra. And that just comes across as, well, a tad suspicious, because if the time sickness is potentially impacting them, is it possible it impacts Barry as well? Because Iris is the source of it, but then it's infected Dion, and can Dion infect the other forces? Like, that's a possibility. And also, we don't know the source of Iris's time sickness as a whole, and potentially what or who is behind it. So there's a lot of unknowns. So just jumping straight into the still force is very risky. Now, Dion does come back through his screaming. I thought the screaming was really weird. It's like, you just hear like this faint, like, ah, and then like, it just builds up and he shows up. I was like, okay, at least he's not going to show up surprisingly. You get a 5-second scream warning, I guess. But anyway, he shows up again to bring Barry into the still force, and instantly you get a change of just feel and scenery within it. You get like these weird swaying camera angles, and it just feels, I don't want to say empty, because it was empty but not empty, but it just felt hollow. That's probably the best way to put it. And I saw some people complaining about him. Like, I thought it looked different and interesting. Like, the issue is that if it wasn't like that and it just sort of looked like the normal world, then people would complain as well. I'm like, well, what do you want? Do you want it to look different, or do you want it to look the same? Because you'd probably complain either way. So I thought it looked cool, and how like they constantly had like the weird camera angles moving around, just because it made you feel a bit uneasy, or as if you're in somewhere or an area that you shouldn't be in, which technically Barry was. And pretty much immediately the still force is sort of reacting and trying to attack Barry, almost as if it's like defending itself due to its decaying matter, or decaying mana, might I say. So yeah, that only happens once. You don't really see it again, maybe towards the end when they're trying to get out, but you don't really see that too much. But I thought that was a cool factor, the fact that it seemed like the still force was defending itself. Now, when we had Barry and Dion walking through the still, I was going to say Speed Force, but the still force, I was surprised to just see people walking around casually. I was like, hold on, what are they? But then those people walking around are sort of like changing from like young to old to middle aged in like an instant, just back and forth. And it's because it's the past, present, and future all existing at once. So these are just specific moments that could be happening at some moment, but it's just fluctuating back and forth between the past, present, and future, which is then showcased through a handful of newspapers, one of which is in the future. It was in May 2024. I think it was May 4th or May 5th or something. And it's of Zoom and Godspeed destroying Central City. But that's, of course, in 2024. So I don't know if we'll ever get to see that. Depends how long the show goes for. I think we'd have to reach season 10, I think, for that to be the case. But I thought that was still really cool, like that sort of like setting up that those characters are, a thing there. Or at least there's like a potential team up at that time period. Now, does that mean that Zoom's alive? I don't know. Maybe it's time traveling Zoom. I'm not too sure. Now, we do go to the citizen in the still force. So just a familiar area in an unfamiliar area, if that sort of makes sense. And we see a future moment with Allegra and her co-worker who she has beef with. It's that normal one that we saw like with Iris at the end of last episode. Can't remember her name. It's just girl. We'll just call her co-worker girl. And it seems to be that this co-worker girl is going to expose Allegra as a metahuman. That was the vibes I was getting. And Allegra was like, no, this is my thing that I should be telling people, not you. It's up for me, not for you. So I think it's about that, because unless it's about her being a criminal, but that was already brought up in the past. So I'm assuming it's a metahuman thing, but I guess that might be something that happens in a future episode this season. I'd assume that is the case, and maybe that's why they were teasing it there. So I think that might be what's happening there. I'm not too sure. But we do actually come across Renee Wazzo, who's Tinya's mother, but she disappears again, and Dion doesn't really want to focus on her, as Iris is the main focus to him, which we find out quickly why that is. But yeah, so she appears quickly, but then fades away. So I guess we'll come back to her at a later time, not too sure. Now, Chester is called in by Kramer to assist the CCPD, and this is due to this like mysterious device that let off a bang and like a bit of a blast. And when Chester inspects it closer, or more closely, he is startled by something within it, and that is because the tech is something that he designed, and it's due to him streaming him making it, which of course was a worry brought up during the Deathstorm arc, and now it's a reality. However, due to some digging, he finds out the person who used the tech wasn't doing it for nefarious reasons. He was trying to do some good, like create like an unlimited free water heating system, I think it was, within his building. However, as Chester and I think Allegra is there as well leave, someone hacks into his computer and downloads all of his files. Now, I don't know if this was the person he was talking to or someone else, but obviously they're setting up someone using crazy tech in a future episode. I don't know if it's next week's episode or later down the track this season, not too sure, but they're setting up someone using Chester's tech. Now, we do go back to the Central City Citizen, and we do see another future newspaper, which actually has the Trickster, I think it was like attacking or invading Tibet or something like that. It was a very surprising headline, but Iris also wasn't the editor-in-chief on the newspaper like she should be, which, catches Barry off guard. And this is when they actually do find the particle that they were tracking. But shockingly, and this caught me off guard, and I'm sure it might have caught a lot of you off guard, Dion takes it and absorbs it for himself, leaving Barry on his own in the still force and no way out. I was like, wait, really? Like, what? Dion, what the hell? And this is when we cut to 2049 Central City, where Nora is writing down her own article on her own heroics, when she is confronted by like a figure of temporal energy. And I thought it was Barry at first, but it's Dion, and he's saying that Barry is trapped and needs her, and that's when she is all of a sudden like absorbed into the still force as well, which comforts Barry at first, but then of course the same issue of being stuck in the still force arises, and the instant worry starts to happen again. Now, Nora does give away a bit of a future spoiler of excitement for Barry by telling him that she actually is becoming a reporter in the future rather than a CSI like the other Nora was. So the other Nora followed in Barry's footsteps. This Nora is following in Iris's footsteps. And through a conversation about sort of connectivity, that's sort of like the base of it all, Barry realizes that the still force is something that is still within himself, though not a major part of it, but it's something that he can tap into if he focuses correctly. And though Barry struggles at first, thanks to Nora, Barry actually uses the hairbrush that Iris sent to the still force all the way back at the end of episode 6 or 7 or whenever it was, and that he uses it as an anchor point, and they're able to connect to the present day because that's where it was from. And Joe is able to see them, and they leave the hairbrush behind. But Barry is now connected to the still force, being able to see the past, present, and future very easily, where he references Nora's future wife. Now, obviously in season 5, when Nora was there, they sort of hinted that Nora was at the very least bisexual, but I guess in the future, Nora is married to another woman. He references Bart's children. He also references the past with like Harry, Jesse, Cisco, Frost, and everything like that. But then he also references Max. He can see Max. And some of you might be like, who the hell's Max? Max Power? Homer Simpson? No, Max Mercury. He references Max Mercury. That's what he means by Max. And I was like, hold on, you can't just say that. You can't just say that. So does that mean we're getting Max Mercury? Like, the thing is, he's in the future. Max, it seems to be, is going to be a future thing. We better get something next season when we go to the future and we see Max Mercury. They have to do it now. It can't be this tease. None of that. No teasing. You can't say that and they're not doing anything with it. We better see Max Mercury, and I can't wait to see who they cast as Max if they do that. I'm trying to think who they could use. I don't know. I don't know who they could use, but they got to use Max Mercury now. They can't tease that, not do anything with it. But anyway, Barry and Nora try to escape the still force, but it constantly sort of like reset in a loop. But it was sort of like a not a straight up loop. It was almost like I don't know, it was almost like a rubber band going back and forth. It was like I don't even know how you would call it. It was like just a circular track that they kept running around. They couldn't get through. And it's just the still force keeping them trapped within there. But through some tighter focus, really just mainly due to the fact that they could see that they actually get out. They could actually see that future bit where they get out. They are able to break through the still force barrier and back into the present day of the real world, which apparently had Barry using all of the still force within him to get out. So conveniently, that can't be used anymore for now, at the very least, to track Iris. Though Barry is able to sense her in there and is pretty confident and sure that she is fine and isn't in any like direct danger. Like, obviously they need to get her out, but it's not like she's got 10 seconds to live or something like that. He could sense that she was fine, and they have at least some time to figure out how to get Iris out of there. Now, the end scene of the episode, I wasn't too sure what the cliffhanger was going to be, but then at the same time, it didn't surprise me what it was. And that's Caitlin once again in her apartment or makeshift lab, and Chillblaine comes back, breaks in, whichever way you want to put it, and he's actually decided to help Caitlin with this Frost situation under one condition, and that's that Caitlin promises that they won't fail. The issue with this is that I think she will fail in regards to what exactly she wants to do. I don't know if she'll fail in regards to bringing back Frost, but I don't think it's going to be the Frost that they knew. Because the whole viewpoint from Chillblaine is that him and Frost were just starting off, but I reckon the Frost that maybe comes back isn't the Frost that he knew. So in that way, Caitlin somewhat succeeds, but in Chillblaine's eyes, she would fail. So I think there might be a bit of a loophole in that agreement and deal there. So I'm very curious to see how that potentially plays out. But as I said earlier in the video, I thought this episode was a pretty solid one. Nothing really bored me. I thought it was all interesting and relevant to stuff going forward, whether it's, for the rest of the season or next episode or just within the episode itself. And the main thing I take away from this episode is you don't set up Max Mercury. You don't name drop him. You don't make it that he is in the future and don't do anything with him. You better announce something for season 9 that he's going to be there, because that's probably the one speedster that we haven't really seen on the show yet, that people have been wanting to. That's like a big thing in the Flash family. So make it happen. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome. You could drop a like and show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions about everything we went over. I'm always curious to read, what you guys are thinking, what you thought of the episode and all that. And also, do you want to see Max Mercury? If anyone says no, then shame on you. But yeah, let me know all your thoughts down there. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.